Hello there. I think we're back. Back on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Gregory L. Heitmann. And this is the Colonel and the Kid podcast. So, welcome to Monday, August 10th, 2026. So, we're here. Let's see. I think it was 6 days ago. We had brought the podcast back in to back online. So after a little hiatus there, a couple months, but yeah, raring to go on a Monday. So a little background, as your host, I should explain things a little more. That we're at the the 3/4 pole, or the quarter pole left. I don't know. Is it the quarter pole? Does that mean that you in a horse race, the quarter pole is you have 1/4 of the distance to go? So if that's the case, then we're here today doing chapter 45, which is called The Heart Attack. And this is the podcast that's dedicated to my grandfather. It's based on the memoir I've written, and I'm just putting it into the electronic record, including video and audio, the podcast. And it's the Colonel and the Kid podcast. It's dedicated to my grandfather, my mom's dad, my maternal grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. And I'm just hoping to, preserve a little chunk of history for all time. And I think we're doing that. I think once it's put out there on the internet, it's going to last forever, as long as computers last, I guess, because it's out there in ones and zeros in the digital world for infinity. Let's just say. I don't know if that's true, but I guess because it can't be really infinity if the world ends. And it seems like we're getting closer and closer to that with AI. And we might see that the Terminator film from whatever year that was, 1984, was that Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Talking about Skynet taking over and the robots taking over the world and trying to kill all the humans. I think modern AI is threatening us. At least the experts of AI are talking about that. They're trying to put guardrails on AI and doing all this stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime. I don't think AI will take over completely, but we'll see. Well, maybe I won't see, but someone will see if I'm correct or not. Anyway, I've done this podcast for a couple of reasons, preserve history, but then also, as it's turned out, it's actually it's been my psychotherapy, if you will. I guess it's my own introspective analysis of why I became who I am. I'm not. I guess I'm not trying to criticize, be critical of myself or criticize my own personality, but it's more of a review of what shaped me. And I think, it started out just a kind of the recording the history of my relationship with my grandfather, but my grandfather, I think, really was one of the bigger influences in my life, I guess. And I think subconsciously, many years ago, I started modeling myself after my grandfather, trying to, make, with the idea that my grandfather was sort of an example to look up to and strive to be. So I think it's worked out. I don't know. I think there's I think if we go along, there's probably a lot of people that I could bring onto the podcast. Maybe that's the future of the podcast. I bring on guests to the podcast and they can, I guess, buttress my own argument of myself that I'm okay in my striving to be more like my grandfather, or they can say, no, no, you fell way short. But that's future Greg's problem. We'll worry about that once we get the full memoir into the record and completed. Still working on it. Still trying to churn out a couple more chapters, and then get all the rest of the chapters edited. I think I've got a couple chapters edited, ready to go for the next couple podcasts. But I don't have all of my finished chapters over to the editor yet, so we're still working on it. Not saying it's not going to be done before the end of the year, but it's going to be a tight race to that goal of finishing before the year 2027 starts. I'm not going to worry about it too much if I don't make it, but it's a goal. You put those goals out there, and if you don't make it, you're still trying. Doesn't mean you're a failure. Well, in this case, it doesn't mean I failed. Failed to reach the goal doesn't mean I failed as a person in an attempt to complete a writing assignment on time. I mean, luckily, there's no professor or teacher that's grading me and giving me an F for failure on this project. I mean, just I don't know. Maybe my fans and the audience scorn in itself is enough of a grade and a metaphorical failure, a big red F in red ink on the piece of invisible paper in my life. That's interesting. I guess to me, that's that symbol from your childhood school time. You have that big F written across your paper. I don't think I got too many of them. I was a pretty good student, I like to think, but I think that's so threatening. I mean, the teachers and my mom being a teacher, I think I had the fear of God in me about being a failure and putting so much emphasis on not having that happen to me, getting a big F on your piece of paper. Oh, well, I made it this far. I think I'm okay. Anyway, so we got, like I said, the Colonel Kid podcast, and this is season 3. I'm not sure which. I think it's. So this is like episode 5 of season 3. The first season was chapters 1 through 20. Second season's chapter 21 through 40. And now we're on the third and final season, chapters 41 through 60. So chapter 45 today, the heart attack. And I will say that it's really weird. It's kind of strange and weird to me that we're winding this up. It seems like it seemed like it was never going to end. And it still does. It seems far away that it's, that I have a lot of time and a lot more to talk about, but not really. I mean, 3/4 done with the whole thing. And it's, I guess it's starting to feel a little, maybe a little melancholy as it comes to the end. It's going to end at some point. You just can't. I mean, the memoir can't go on forever. I think the podcast will continue. I think we have some other plans to discuss things and remember other occurrences and occasions of Grandpa's influence on me and others. So that'll go on, but it's kind of there's kind of this warning, silent alarm going off in my head saying, yeah, it's coming to an end, be prepared. And it's for all goals in life where you have a goal to set out, you're striving for, and then you achieve it. And there's an empty feeling. It's really, I think it's common. I think that a lot of the motivation classes, leadership classes talk about that you got to be constantly trying to set new goals and striving. Otherwise, you do kind of just feel lost when you achieve a goal and you don't have the next goal set up and you're trying to work towards something. So I think maybe I need to actually write down some more future goals and plans on how and where I'm going with this stuff. But should be more podcasts in the future. Don't worry, loyal fans out there. It's not going to end. The podcast is not going to end when the memoir ends. So I give you my word on that. Anyway, before we start, I wanted to bring up, still hot out, hotter than heck out down here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. As I mentioned, it's August 10th, but so I'm wearing a straw hat. I'm not wearing the official podcast hat, which is, the genuine beaver hat. It's more the insulated cold weather cowboy hat. But I'm trying to get this hat. This is my George Strait hat, of course. It's a straw hat, and I'm trying to get it. I think it got curled up a lot just sitting around for many years in a box. And so I got it out. I'm going to see if I can set it flat for a while and see if it'll bend down a little bit to provide a little more shade when you're out in the sun, actually, and just a little more a friendlier looking brim to it, if you want to call it that. So I'll be working on that in the future. By the time it gets straightened out and gets fixed up, it'll probably be time for the cold weather custom cowboy hat, custom hat that I had from O'Farrell. I don't have the box out because it's in the closet over here. Otherwise, when I'm wearing that hat, I have the box out, the cover, so you can see the O'Farrell logo and coat of arms shield on there from the O'Farrell Hat Company here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I won that hat, and they made a hat for me, custom fit to my head and everything. So, but today we're just stuck with the George Strait type straw hat. All right. Let's get to the chapter. I think I've rambled on way too long already of just about introducing things and seeing where we're going and blabbing on about stuff that's probably not real relevant. Anyway, let's get to the chapter. Chapter 45 of The Colonel and the Kid. And this chapter is called The Heart Attack. And as always, we start with a quote. And the quote reads, quote, "I am oblivious to most things. Sadly, I was not aware of this until most recently," end quote. And this is a quote by yours truly, Gregory L. Heitmann. And let's get right to the chapter. I use the quote at the beginning of this chapter in a way that is more profound than the way it probably comes across as some sort of humorous statement. I don't think I'm alone in my self-absorption. I do, however, believe I have recently had a semblance of a dawning of self-awareness, better late than never. There were two things I really wanted to document in this chapter. The first one pertains to the idea of seeing the signs and either ignoring them or just not having the experience to interpret them. The second is the idea of the American healthcare system, before, during, and after Grandpa's heart attack. I think of myself as having above average intelligence. So why did I not say something to my mom about Grandpa's deteriorating stamina on that last pheasant hunt? Would it have made any difference? Who was I to stick my nose into Grandpa's business regarding his health? I was young. Old people start slowing down. It was hard to see Grandpa coming to the end of his hunting life, but that's what happens. You hang up your guns. I can sit here Monday morning quarterbacking the situation now, knowing that his heart was failing. But when you're just about 80 years old, your heart has beaten well over 3 billion times. The body wears out. We all follow that path. It's just a fact of life. We see the strong, unflappable, infallible elders in our life in a losing battle against Father Time. This was my grandfather, the man I'd wanted to be when I grew up. That was before the heart attack in 1998. Grandpa never recovered. I heard the stories about Grandpa's heart attack. I may have heard Grandpa repeat it. his comment about trying to get to his pistol that he kept in the nightstand drawer next to his bed. He was in the basement of the house where he would have had to climb 2 flights of stairs, about 8 steps each, to reach the gun. He had hopes of ending it himself if he could. He didn't. The ambulance came, took him to the hospital in Siston, South Dakota, where he was flown by helicopter to Fargo, North Dakota, and its heart hospital. There's a family story of my dad driving to Siston, taxiing my mom and grandma to Fargo at speeds that would have garnered careless driving status if picked up by law enforcement. And here we have a couple photos, just quick photos to share. Then I'll read the caption, then talk about it a little bit. Caption reads, Grandpa's Colt 45 Commander, and a detail photo of the markings on the barrel. This was the Army officer's pistol issued by the Armory. So there's a couple of photos of Grandpa's pistol that I am in possession of. And it's just a Colt 45 model 1911 pistol. Just a standard black bluing on the gun barrel itself. And it's got standard grips. Just I think they're just plastic grips. Plastic Colt 45 grips that have the Colt's gun manufacturing symbol in the plastic grip there. And then there's a detail on the barrel. The first photo, there's 2 photos. The first photo is just a picture of the pistol itself laying with the barrel facing to the right, and you can see the handle. And then the other picture is the other side of the barrel, the pistol flat with the barrel pointing to the left. And it's got you can just see where it says commander model. So like an Army commander. That's what the Army officers would have had for their issued weapon. And it's a real pretty pistol, and just the workhorse of Army officers for World War II, and that time frame, that era of military warfare. I'm not sure if Colt is still the contracting agent. I think when I shot my pistol qualification for the Air Force officer, they were Berettas, if I remember right. 9mm Berettas, if I recall correctly. So times change, new calibers used, and new contractors, completing the bidding process, come across the types of weapons. So glad I have it. I have it safe and secure. And it's just a nice memento to have, and be able to hold that and go out and shoot it once in a while. Remember Grandpa. Anyway, back to the chapter. Grandpa needed bypass surgery. He had multiple blockages of his arteries in his heart. I remember my dad talking about the young female heart surgeon that spoke to the family. According to my dad, she was barely 5 feet tall and looked far too young to be a doctor of any kind. She briefed the family on the open heart surgery procedure. Remember that this was in the late 1990s, and she told the family that if Grandpa was Canadian, he'd be sent home to die. Grandpa was over 80 years old, and the Canadian healthcare system was not going to invest money in a patient that had outlasted the actuarial tables. But this is the United States, and we can give him a few more years of life, even at 80 years old. And here, I thought this was a pretty good place to put this little photo. And this is a photo. I'll read the caption, then I'll describe the photo a little bit here. The caption reads, "For our friends to the north, I include a photo of one of Grandpa's decanters. This Royal Canadian Mountie held Canadian Mist whiskey. Photo circa 2022. And so I have this decanter now in my possession, and this was Grandpa's. And it's like a porcelain container in the shape of a Mountie, Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman with a bright red jacket and signature utility belt, black knickers or black pants, black short pants, whatever you call them, and tall jack boots, just up to the knee boots and long gauntlet type gloves and the flat, kind of like drill sergeant hat, flatten my brim to imitate that of the cap. And that's the cap is where the stopper for the bottle was. And it's just that bright red, beautiful red color for the mounted policemen, the Mounties as they were called. And I'm not exactly sure. I think are they the equivalent of the FBI in Canada? I should have looked that up. I should know that if I'm going to be talking about that. I don't know that, but you can put in the comments if you want and make fun of me for not knowing that, if that's not true. I'm going to stick with my guns and say they're like the FBI of Canada, but they have fancier uniforms than our FBI. I think our FBI people just wear suits, regular business type suits. Anyway, it's hilarious if I'm wrong. Anyway, it's I don't know what it holds about. It's probably 750 milliliters of whiskey in there. I'm not even sure. I'm not exactly sure where I have this decanter right now. And if there is indeed actually whiskey in it, if there's whiskey still in it, it is really old and it may not be drinkable. It may have turned into some sort of lacquer or paint thinner type liquid. So I'll try to figure it out. And it seems like every podcast, there's questions that come up and I don't have answers to right away. And I say, I'm going to research it, do some research and find out. And I forget, and then it never happens. So, oh well. Back to the chapter. I beg your pardon as I rant. Pausing for a moment to just consider a few things. Grandpa passed away in 2007 before Barack Obama was elected president and drove healthcare into a further state of chaos by, quote, fixing insurance coverage and stoking the divide of America. One of the campaign slogans against Obamacare was, "We don't want death panels." This was the idea that bureaucrats and statisticians were going to make decisions on treatment that would essentially determine who lived and who died. I really have mixed feelings on this issue. It's a strange combination of politics and morality. Am I morally compromised because I tend to fall on the side of the fence that agrees with President Obama and big government? This is a principle that seems to place a price tag on the value of human life and the extraordinary measures to extend life and the costs associated with these efforts. All told, it is competition for the treasury of the United States government and our tax dollars. Healthcare makes up about 1/6 of the United States economy. Based on my own experiences, getting medical treatment and dealing with insurance is virtually intolerable at this point. Just try to get a doctor's appointment or find a doctor that is accepting new patients. Plus, if you can find a doctor, will they accept your insurance? It is a mess. I begin to question my own character. I doubt my ability to die with the dignity that Grandpa showed. I'm scared. I'm not necessarily scared of dying. It is the suffering I fear. Am I weak? I don't have a tolerance for pain. Or don't I have a tolerance for pain higher than normal people seem to have? I've hunted elk in the mountains, packed out the meat on my own. So yes, I do have a higher threshold for pain. I am scared of being totally dependent on others and a burden to my family. Grandpa never recovered from his heart attack. It leads me to comment on my opinion regarding how we handle end-of-life care. It is my guess that Grandpa would have preferred to cash in his chips right then and there during the heart attack. He said, "If only I could have gotten my pistol." It is a sensitive discussion. Just because we can save a life, does it mean we should? What about quality of life? Grandpa and Grandma moved from their beloved country house into a duplex in Siston. One step closer, Grandpa said, acknowledging the next phase of his life. He didn't drive anymore, an activity so integral to his life with all those years trekking the back roads, delivering mail on his rural route. I can't help but think about being alive versus living. I'll stop here, but it's something that stays in the back of my mind, especially as we kickstart life post-pandemic. Being alive versus living is a debate I will leave for others to consider for now. End of rant. And that's the end of the chapter. And I did want to close with the usual quote. And I found this one, in a very serious topic of my grandpa's heart attack and everything. I thought I can't leave it that way. Seems too harsh. So I put a little humor in this, and I put this quote to finalize the chapter. Quote, "I will never have a heart attack. I give them," end quote. And that's a quote from George Steinbrenner, owner of the New York Yankees. And that just, puts a smile on my face to end the chapter. And tough chapter to write about and talk about. But George Steinbrenner was a character. And when I found that quote, I guess I'm just searching for quotes, try to put in the bookends for the chapter, the start and the end of the chapters. And this chapter, it just was so perfect to have, to include as a heart attack quote from George Steinbrenner, and I will never have a heart attack. I give them. It's just perfect for it. And I end the actual written chapter, but I will talk about a little bit about just the idea of quote, government stepping into healthcare, and Obama and the liberal side of politics demanding universal healthcare for everybody. And we're not talking about healthcare. This is talking about insurance. And it's such a misnomer and just so, I guess, disingenuous to talk about healthcare. This is talking about paying for healthcare and the Medicare, Medicaid type system for, Medicare for elderly and Medicaid for the poor people that can't afford it. And I think that they called it the name of the bill was Affordable Care Act. And it was, the government was going to give you, provide insurance for you to pay for your health care and do all this stuff to take care of you. And just that one step closer to that socialism that we've seen not work in every time it's been tried across the world, around the world. And it's just, it just, to me, that whole thing with the Affordable Care Act that, became, the nickname was Obamacare. So we're stuck with that for the rest of time. And I think it was just a really divisive time for this country to have the government try to take over the insurance side of healthcare. They didn't do anything to provide more healthcare for people. If you try to get an appointment for anything, it's practically impossible. You have to go to urgent care and wait in line there. If you go to the emergency room for anything, you're just sitting there unless you're near death, then they might get you to the front of the line. But if you break your arm or something, you're going to be stuck forever. If you're not in danger of dying on the spot, it's good luck. And it's just not working. And I find it very offensive to the people as a citizen of this country that this is the way we're treated. Instead of actually making things better by providing more healthcare experts, maybe increasing enrollment and developing more medical schools for doctors and nurses, we're sitting here chipping away at insurance issues, health insurance issues. So I think we're worse off than ever after 2008, when Obamacare, or that time frame of when Obamacare was put into effect, which probably wasn't into effect until 2010, 2011. Here we are 15 years later, and it's just still in shambles, trying to get health care as an individual and paying for insurance costs now. Insurance costs probably doubled in that time frame, I'm guessing. And I think it's a complete disservice to the citizens of this country with the government. I'm not just blaming President Obama. I'm blaming everyone involved. All those people involved should be ashamed that they couldn't do a better job to try to take care of the citizens. I mean, that's the business of the government. The first task of the government is to protect its citizens, and this has not done that. And it makes me angry, I guess, really. I don't, I try to tend to shy away from a lot of the politics of stuff, but when things are so ridiculous, I can't just sit here silently and just say, oh, everything's great. So there you go. There's my hot take on healthcare insurance coverage of this country, the greatest country that's ever been. And we're spinning our wheels here. And I guess I should comment. I was going to wrap that up, but I do want to go back and comment on the Canadian side of things, where I think that if you have money and you're Canadian, you come down to America to get treated for any health issues, because you don't have to sit here and wait in line for years. I mean, if it's not life-threatening, you're just put on a waiting list and you're stuck waiting behind whoever, as far as trying to get, I don't know, whatever surgery you might need. I guess I shudder to think if you tore your ACL up in Canada, as a citizen, not like a professional sports athlete, but if you're just mind your own business, walking on the sidewalk, and you trip and step on a rock and twist your knee wrong, and all of a sudden you tore your ACL, and you're in Canada, who knows when you'll have surgery? You say, oh, well, here's some painkillers and wait by your phone, because we'll call you when we have an operating room and a doctor and a nurse and everybody to take care of you for the surgery. Don't hold your breath, because who knows when it's going to happen. And, on the more serious side of cases, if you have a heart attack and you're a certain age or you already have, I guess, other issues going on that might make you a risk for treatment, they're just going to give you some pills and say, okay, go home and die. I think that was one of the debates that Barack Obama brought up in one of the presidential debates before he was elected. Say, yeah, sometimes, that if you're at a certain age, that you're just going to have to be sent home with some pills, and that's the end of your life. They're not going to treat you for whatever, whether it be cancer, heart attack, something like that. I think there's a pretty good record of what Obama talked about and what the reality was for healthcare, and how the costs versus care fit together. Anyway, there's my criticism of Canada, and I guess England too. I mean, it's part of that similar governmental style that England and other countries under the crown, if you will, Australia, how they handle their healthcare versus the United States. I don't know. It's a good question. Good question for debate. It shouldn't be dismissed. It should be brought forward consistently and constantly discussed to see how we handle things and try to make things better. I think we've reached a point where it's such a difficult, complex situation that people would rather just ignore it and hope that it goes away. And it's not. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. Similar to any medical condition, that if you're suffering and you just don't want to go to the doctor and say, oh, I'm just going to wait. Maybe it'll get better. It will get better on its own. It'll fix itself. And it's like, nope. They say, if you have cancer, hopefully you discover it early, and the earlier you you discover it, the better chances you have to attack it and fix it. So here we are with this medical Affordable Care Act. It's never been tried to be fixed in how many years now? Another slap in the face to American citizens. And it's similar to Social Security. Social Security is going to run out of money. And what is it? I think 2030, it's going to start losing. You're going to start losing your benefits. They're only going to be able to pay like 73 cents on the dollar in 2030, which is just 4 years away. So all the money that people have paid in hopes of getting it back as retirement supplement, Social Security in your old age insurance, whatever they want to call it. I can't remember what was it, OASDI or something like that. On your paycheck, they withhold that. And guess what? You're not going to get it back unless the government takes action and fixes it. And guess what? They're not going to do it. They're going to stick their head in the sand like an ostrich, and hopefully it'll fix itself somehow. And it won't. So be prepared for that. All right. That's it. I'm going to shut down the chapter 45 here, Colonel and the Kid memoir, and end the discussion and get off of any political hot potato that I picked up and was bounced around today. So that's it. On to bigger and better things. The rest of the podcast, of course, the spine of the podcast is the memoir and the discussion, the chapters of the Colonel and the Kid and Grandpa's influence on my life. But that's the spine, but we have branches from the spine. Or I guess maybe it's more like a trunk of a tree. It's the trunk, but we have branches from the trunk. And we have some recurring segments here today. Of course, the first one that I've been picking up lately is the Minnesota Twins update, the baseball update. And here we are, sponsored by Teener Baseball. This is the book I wrote about playing baseball as a teener. Teener was the VFW sponsored age group, 14 to 16-year-olds, I think. It's the step before American Legion Baseball. And so I wrote this book about my experience playing baseball, and it's based on my experience and my younger brother Garrett's baseball days. Highly fictionalized story of politically incorrect teenagers in the early 1980s, mid 80s, late 80s, whatever it is, 80s. Simpler time before the internet and modern computers, and there was still a lot of mischief going on. So anyway, Minnesota Twins update, sponsored by Teener Baseball. And there's the poster if you're watching this YouTube video. And I always do that. I have the audio podcast that you can just listen to. But if you watch it on a YouTube video or Apple video podcast now, I guess I still haven't checked that out. I need to check that out, see if that's working or if I'm getting those uploaded. But if you want to watch the video podcast, it's on YouTube, and I upload all the photos from the chapter. I don't think there was very many photos today. Just the whiskey decanter and the Colt 45 model 1911 pistol. I might have had photos of both those before already, so they might be repeats, but they're worth looking at. And if you watch the video, you can see me in my straw hat today. I don't know. It's just still too warm. I should have actually turned down the air conditioner because it's getting warm in here as we're approaching 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Anyway, let's get to the Twins update. And unfortunately, the Twins are kind of going the wrong direction. I think they lost both series this week. 1 and 3. Can't remember who they played over the weekend. They played Milwaukee Brewers, and Milwaukee Brewers are 30 games over 500. So I think Milwaukee might have the best record in baseball. Twins hung in there with them. They did win one game They lost 2 or 3 there in Milwaukee Brewers, and the Twins have a record of 58-61. They're now 3 games below 500 for .487 winning percentage. Last week, I provided the update on the podcast. They were at .496 winning percentage, so they're going in the wrong direction after the August 3rd trade deadline where they picked up some extra pitching. And I think the pitching has been okay, but it's just the offense and the run scoring has just been really suspect. And I don't see it turning around, and I feel like it's probably a bridge too far to think that they'll make the playoffs. And even if they did make the playoffs, I just don't think they have an offense and a strong enough pitching staff. I mean, if you have like 2 good pitchers in the playoffs, you can really, there's so many days off and so much time to recover, that if you have a good closer and 2 good starters, you can win series. But the Twins, they have an injury too. Their ace, Joe Ryan, has hurt his glute, so he's got a pain in the butt, and who knows how long he's going to be out. And even if he does come back, will he be effective? Will he be recovered enough? I mean, can you recover in time after resting? I don't know. I'm assuming it's just a muscle injury in his butt, the glute injury. So, and that's a strange. I haven't really heard too many pitchers having glute injuries. And in fact, I think they said it's in his back/glute. So whatever muscles that are attaching from the gluteus maximus to the back muscles. What's to say? Anyway, so I really am kind of bummed out because I was hoping against all odds that the Twins can compete and give me something to root for during this last month before NFL football season starts. And I don't think it's going to pan out, unfortunately. So tough break for the old Minnesota Twins, but typical of Minnesota in general, which is jump the shark, and it's just in a sad state of affairs with all the problems they have up there. And you get what you pay for, they say, and in this case, you get what you vote for. And they have been a disgrace for so many years politically. They're the one state that voted for Walter Mondale when Ronald Reagan was running for president. He won every single state but Minnesota, because Minnesota's got some corrupt idea. I guess maybe you could call it ideation. They're looking for utopia, and look what it's got them. They got a disaster in the big cities there, the Twin Cities. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm on the last throes of having my allegiance set towards any Minnesota Twins teams, because I've been away from that area for so long. I think that they have disrespected me and my fanship with all the stuff they've done. So they are on my list of, I guess, what do we call it? A separation? No, what did they call it? What did Gwyneth Paltrow? Conscious decoupling, I think. Decoupling my fandom and fanship of the Vikings and associated Minnesota other teams. Really, I don't have any affiliation with the Timberwolves in the NBA or the Wild of the NHL, because I think I was sort of a fan of the North Stars when they were in Minnesota, but then they They left and went to Dallas, and they were the Dallas Stars. I don't think they were North Stars. They were Dallas Stars. And it used to be, it makes sense, just like it used to be the Minneapolis Lakers, and then they relocated to Los Angeles Lakers. And they have the name the Lakers because of all the 10,000 lakes in California. Oh wait, no, there are very few lakes in California, but there are a lot of lakes in Minnesota. So I have no allegiance to any team. I guess I will say I don't really have the allegiance to any teams in Minnesota anymore. Shopping for new teams, and this is not news. This isn't breaking news. I think I've talked about this before. We're looking for new teams. We're leaning towards Las Vegas teams because Las Vegas, nice, I guess nice place to go in the winter to have mild weather. It's not nice in the summertime. I think it was 115 degrees there last week or 2 weeks ago. Pretty darn hot, and but at least they're smart enough to build dome stadiums. And I give the Vikings credit for getting a dome stadium, but the Minnesota Twins in the outdoor stadium, when it's they can have snow during the playoffs and snow at the start of the season, and then they don't have a dome, so you can have rain delays, and they have a fan base that comes from distance in South Dakota, North Dakota, and you're going to plan your vacation as a family to go see a game, and you might be rained out or snowed out. The Twins, like I said, the Twins played this weekend over in Milwaukee, and guess what? Milwaukee has a dome, so it was nice. And you don't have the sunshine problem, the sun problems with the shadows during day games of batters not being able to see when the pitcher's in bright sunshine and the batter's in shadows, which is a death wish for these guys. They throw 100 miles an hour, 103 miles an hour, and if you can't see the ball, it's coming for your head. Guess what? It's kind of a cautionary tale. Make sure your helmet fits correctly. Make sure you got that jaw guard on your helmet. So I think 99% of the batters have that, I think, now. So anyway, that's a long ways to go for the MLB update for the Twins. And I will say this, one more thing about, and then if you know the answer to this, I was going to look this up, but I forgot, but this is going to be a reminder if and when I do listen to my own podcast, to look up why there was fans in their Milwaukee stadium that had umbrellas in the dome. I just heard the end of it, and they said that there's some fans ready with their umbrellas in case water comes in through. I don't know if there's certain areas where they move the roof, and then if the water leaks down into the crowd. It was weird. I need to look that up and see, but because I missed that during the broadcast. I don't know what I was doing. I think I had the volume muted when I was watching the game, and I unmuted it just in time to hear them say something about that. And then they showed some people in the crowd with umbrellas, and they're in a dome. It seemed like, well, okay, maybe they couldn't close the roof close fast enough if it was raining. I don't know. It's a mystery to me, a mystery that I can solve. And I look forward to solving that as soon as I get off this podcast. If I remember to try to solve that when I'm done. Anyway, there you go. And once again, the update brought to you by Teener Baseball, a great book. Someone once said this is the greatest book they ever read. That was probably me. After I read it, I wrote it, and then I read it in draft form. It's like, man, this is the greatest book I've ever read, that I wrote myself, because it's probably my best book. I do say, if I do say so myself. Anyway, that's your Minnesota Twins update. Now to other sports news, and I should have talked about this last time, but I forgot because in the long hiatus of the podcast. Guess what? The World Cup was held, and it was as exciting as watching paint dry. I did watch some of it. I I withstood most of the pressure to just jump on that bandwagon and be like a big soccer guy, football guy. But this football, it's soccer as we call it here in the greatest country in the world. It is so boring. I just completely lost any favorable opinion of soccer that I might have had because it's so boring and the players are flopping around as if they're being murdered on the field. It's more like a bad Broadway play type thing because these guys are acting as if they're being killed out there, and they're perfectly fine. I didn't see one guy have to be taken off on a stretcher or um. Well, I mean, I didn't watch that much. I did watch. I just started watching Argentina because I was kind of quietly hoping Argentina could have won and have Lionel Messi been back to back World Cup champions and really kind of establishing, if he's not already the GOAT, the greatest of all time in soccer, that that it would have solidified that argument that he truly is. Because I like to have people in my lifetime of viewing like Tom Brady and Michael Jordan, and it would have been Lionel Messi as the greatest players in their sport. Um, Greatest player in baseball was probably Babe Ruth, a little before my time. I'm getting old, but I'm not that old. So I don't think we ever see a player like that. Maybe Shohei Ohtani could be the next best player compared to Babe Ruth, and he is in our time, but because he's still pitches, and he hits for power, but he spent so much time in Japan that he's probably not going to have the length of career and just the opportunity to put up the numbers that Babe Ruth put up for his career. And then Babe Ruth in his time frame, he was not the obviously he wasn't the picture of athleticism, the modern athlete, because they just didn't have all the fancy nutrition and weightlifting and workout regimen and whatever that the modern athletes have. So anyway, soccer update. Spain was the eventual champion. They did beat Argentina in the final game, and it was super boring. That's all I can say. I think it ended up 1-0, and Argentina lost a player. They were down. They only had 10 players for the last half hour of the game or whatever it was. It was just Argentina was just trying to get into penalty kicks because if they could get into penalty kicks, they might have had a chance to win. But they gave up a late goal on a pretty good. I don't know a play. You call it a play or a drive? What do they have? What do they call it in soccer? Where there was a really good assist and a good shot on goal from some Spanish guy. I don't know his name. I couldn't name a player from Spain. They do have a teenager, a 19-year-old kid that's pretty good, I guess. So he'll probably be pretty famous in as the next generation starts up here. And Lionel Messi moves on. I'm pretty sure that was his last World Cup. I think he's 38, so he'd be 42 if he did play in the next World Cup. And if I was a World Cup, I would try to get one in 2 years if I was them, to have a special World Cup so that Messi could play again at 40. But he probably won't, and they probably won't listen to me because I think it was a huge success financially and otherwise. So interesting in a way that just the fiscal effect of that in this country, in the United States and in Canada and in Mexico. Interesting, very a good financial study and a research paper it'd be a good topic for economists to look at to see the effect of that throughout the country, all the countries itself, I guess, to see how much money it pumped into the United States. And there was a lot of stuff that a lot of reporting on X and from tourists coming from other countries that couldn't believe how awesome the United States was. And there was all these stories about people from these other countries loved ranch dressing and they were eating all kinds of ranch. And it was very silly and interesting just to see how foreign tourists could not believe how awesome, and they were talking about how great this country was. It's like, well, welcome to reality. Don't you wish you lived here? And how it is that that's why all these people want to come here, all these illegal migrants that try to get to this country, or they come and visit and never want to leave and violate their visas and passports, and people that walk across the borders and are here illegally. There's a reason, because it's a great country, the greatest country in the world. You're welcome, world, for us allowing you to exist as our neighboring countries. Anyway, that's my sports headlines for this podcast. World Cup happened, and I was super bored by it, and I don't care if I ever see another soccer game again. Yeah. And I'm sorry that I missed that Messi didn't win. And I guess I should put a caveat behind that I actually wouldn't mind going to see Lionel Messi play so I can say I saw the GOAT play. I never did see Tom Brady play live in a stadium or anything like that. And I guess I'm kind of sorry I never did, because he is the GOAT, and I never got to see Michael Jordan play. Probably should have made an effort for that. But Lionel Messi's still playing in the MSL, Majors Soccer League. Is that what it is? I think that's what it's called. He plays for Miami, whatever Miami's football club, Miami FC. I don't even know what the name of the team is down there, but they wear these bright pink jerseys. Fits in with Miami, the bright, colorful Spanish influenced culture down there, Cuban culture. So maybe I'm not going to rule it out completely. Maybe there would be a chance that I see Lionel Messi play football. So anyway, that's it. That's it for the sports update. Big news. The big news update is that we are at peak hummingbird migration. It is pretty cool and almost frightening to see the amount of hummingbirds just buzzing around in the evenings on my feeders. I'm probably using about a pint of nectar between 4 hummingbird feeders I have out. And I'm filling them up a lot and washing, cleaning them. That's a hassle, but it's very entertaining to see the hummingbirds. Glad I can help them out on their long journey south. And it's amazing that they're coming through this is the peak migration. They're very smart, because they're going to get out of here before any cold weather, a hint of cold weather, because it's still probably 90 degrees today up here in Santa Fe, and they're just passing through. Lots of different types. There's the Rufus. They're kind of the bronze, and they are the most aggressive of all the hummingbirds. They'll try to guard the feeder and chase all the other ones away. I have seen the calliopes. They're the smallest ones. They have like a little striped. They're like a ruby-throated hummingbird, except they don't have a solid patch underneath their chin. They have like stripes, and they're the tiny ones. And then there's the broadbill hummingbird. They have the big bill. They're the biggest bills. And then there's a black-chinned hummingbird. They have like a purple patch instead of the ruby-throated hummingbird. And typically we do get a ruby. I think it's the same one. I've seen it multiple years. At the male, ruby-throated, and they have a little different whistle, that kind of the humming from their hummingbird wings. You can always tell it. That's what it is. The Rufus has a certain sound. The black chin, the calliope, and the broadbill all kind of sound similar when they're flying around. But when the ruby throat comes through, or the rufous, they have that certain just that certain whine and that pitch of their hummingbird wings. It's very distinct, and I enjoy hearing that and seeing them come through. So anyway, that's it for the big news. That's the big news headline for the area right now is peak hummingbird migration. I will say a smaller headline that there is a forest fire nearby, probably the closest forest fire to Santa Fe since I've lived here. It's just probably about, I won't even say, it's probably less than 30 miles as the crow flies from Santa Fe, but it's started out a week ago, I think. I, th- I think it was the same day I caught my last squirrel in the yard. It was the biggest squirrel I caught. I called it the squirrel. It was jumbo because it was by far the biggest squirrel I've ever caught in the trap. And I'd seen it all last year and then this year, and I finally caught it, and it was a big fat one. But it was the same day as the forest fire started in a little close to a smaller town called Cundio, which is north of Santa Fe here. And when I was out dumping out the squirrel out in the countryside, I could see the smoke up there, and it's like, oh, it's forest fire. We're getting closer to some rain, so hopefully the rain's going to squelch that fire. It was 0% contained as of yesterday, and it had gotten to, I believe, 2,000 acres. So it's no joke, and it's smokier than heck in the town Santa Fe here. And with the wind goes down, and then it's still, and the smoke just really piles into town, and it smells bad. And I think if you have allergies and asthma, it's really hard on people for that. But smaller headline, less exciting than the hummingbird migration. But I'm lucky I have central air conditioning, refrigerated air versus the swamp cooler. Because if in the old days, if you have the swamp cooler and it just sucks in air and pushes air through um, water mats, and then that evaporation cools the air and blows air down throughout the house and really overpressurizes the house. So you have to open a window, and then that's where the air escapes. That blows the hot air out and brings the cool, watered down air. But if it's smoky outside, you just get a house full of smoke, and it's just unbearable. So you can't even run that evaporative coolers when it's smoky out and there's forest fires. So luckily I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I have beautiful refrigerated air conditioning in the house from just 2 years ago now. Or 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I guess. So got that going for me. And finally, well, not finally, second to finally, I have a couple things here to talk about in the recurring segment of Look What I Found. So I'm back. Two things to talk about. First one, I don't know if you can see this. If you're watching the video, I'm holding up a little metal aluminum tube. It's not hollow. It's not a tube, I guess. A solid tube. And I found it on the walking trail where I walk every day. Well, it wasn't on the trail. It was just off the side of the trail. And I thought, I think this looks like like a footrest on a motorcycle. And I brought it home. And I was right. It's they call it like a foot peg for the passenger on the back of a scooter or motorcycle. So then you put you have it's spring loaded up usually, so it's out of the way. But so then if you're a passenger, then you can push it down and rest your feet on there. And you don't see those every day. Especially why was it on the trail? I don't know. People aren't supposed to be using their motorized scooters. Yeah, I think technically even the electric bikes those are motorized, and it says specifically on the sign for using the trail, no motorized vehicles. So this seems more like a motorcycle, and I have seen motorcycles come by on that trail before when I've been walking, and it just pisses me off to no end because they just come roaring by. Like, there's streets for you people to ride your motorcycles. And now there's like little kids on electric little motocross bicycles, little tiny kids, like, well, tiny, they're probably like 12 to 14 years old. They have a little gang, it seems like. And I see them on the trails once in a while, and they have their motocross helmets on and stuff. And they're just these quiet um, motocross e-bikes, really. They kind of look like motorcycles, like the old motocross, but they're electric e-bikes, and they go fast too. So that kind of scare me, and I'm gonna get hit by one of those bikes one of these days. Anyway, so look what I found. It's a foot peg for a motorcycle passenger. So anyway, there you go. I think I might save the other one. I have another look what I found topic, but I think pretty sure I'm going to save that. I'm going to move on here. Save that till next time for the look what I found section. And it's a good one. You'll want to tune in for that the next episode. But in the meantime, I do have one final recurring segment, and I call this License to Podcast. And this is where I have a ever-growing collection of photographs of personalized plates in New Mexico that I've come across. And the other day I was walking over to the Food King grocery store, just half a mile from my house. And I saw this Corvette, nice Corvette, just go by real slow because there's some speed humps through the parking lot. I was going to try to get a picture of its license plate because I saw it had a personalized plate on it. And I couldn't get my phone out and ready. It was going away from me. And I took a picture of it, but you couldn't read the plate. It's like, missed it. I was so angry that I was so slow reacting to getting the picture. And then I saw them up ahead there. I was walking to the store, and I saw them pull into a parking spot. I was like, oh, all right. They're going to stop, and then I could get the picture while they're in the parking lot. And they pulled into a spot, and then they backed out and took off. And I thought, it's like ducks coming into the decoys where they're like a wily pintail trying to come into the decoys, but it flares, starts coming in. You think it's coming, then it flares off the last minute, like a very wary duck, not fooled by the decoys. But then it came around again, the Corvette, not the duck. Corvette came around, and it parked way away from all the other vehicles. And I said, okay, good. They're way over there. I'm going to go in and buy my stuff. I think I was going to make some salsa. So I bought like a can of diced tomatoes and an onion because I have some jalapeno peppers I'm going to cut up and make my own homemade salsa out of a canned tomatoes because I don't have any tomatoes yet. So I bought those, came back out, and there the Corvette was parked. Went over, took a picture of the license plate. The license plate says, "You bet," and it's it was a really pretty blue color. And I looked it up. I put the photo into Google AI, and according to the AI, it was Le Mans blue. That's what they call it. That's the name of the color of that Corvette. And it couldn't tell me what year it was for sure, just based on the rear view of the picture I had uploaded. It said between 2005 and 2013, so that 8 years time frame. So I'm calling it mid 2000s Corvette. Nice, that Le Mans blue, very beautiful blue color, and license plate, personalized plate that says "You bet." So I enjoyed that, and I will post that picture into the video podcast on Yahoo, and you'll be able to see it there if you want to see a picture of that. Highly recommend it. You can see my hat, and you can see my beautiful seersucker shirt that I'm wearing for the hot weather. Long sleeve seersucker shirt, keep the skin off your arm, or keep the sun off the skin of your arms and stuff. And the seersucker material is light and doesn't stick to you. It's very light material. I like to say it dances on your skin. So if you want summertime shirts, look for seersucker material, and then they don't show the wrinkles too, because they kind of have this nappy texture to it to keep it keep it minimal. Minimize the touching of your skin so your skin can stay cool and blocked from the sun, the hot sun. So anyway, that's it. I think I will sign off. Go ahead and sign off. And, we try to end the podcast on positive notes. So be assertive, be positive, be proactive. That's how you should live your life. Go out there and take the bull by the horns. And it's up to you. You take action. So be assertive, be positive, be proactive. The 3 B's of the podcast. And finally, we end, as I always like to end, and we don't say goodbye. We say see you later. And we leave you with more action on your part. I leave you with these words. Knock and the door will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Ask and you shall be given. So that's it. That's the podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed chapter 45, the heart attack, as we wind down here. So thanks for tuning in. Glad you could be here and glad I could share it with you. That's right. This is not goodbye. This is see you later. Thanks for joining. Have a good day and see you next time. Bye.